All right, so I'm here to talk about wildfire geospatial intelligence. If you didn't catch my keynote, just a little bit about myself. I started my career in 1994 with the United States Forest Service as a hotshot. Went to work for the state of California, it's now called CAL FIRE, and then I've been with Corona Fire the last 20 years. I am a geospatial nerd. I have a master's degree in GIS. It doesn't make me any better than anybody else, but I like maps. I like wildfire. I spent a lot of time on incident management teams doing situational awareness and so on and so forth. And so when TAK came across my lap in 2018, it was like everything I'd ever wanted in an application. I'd actually got off the incident management teams for a little bit frustrated about the way we were doing technology, and this was super refreshing. So a little bit about Corona. If you don't know where Corona, California is, this is not where the coronavirus came from. We used to say Corona like the beer, and we're back to Corona like the beer. We're 35 miles east of downtown LA, western border of Riverside County, where LA, Orange County, San Bernardino come together. We call this the solar area. It's an acronym. And we do that for fire communication. So we get a fire in that area, we have a setup comm plan. You can imagine when someone calls 911 in that area, how many different PSAPs get a 911 call and everybody starts a response. So it's really important for us to get coordinated. And that's why I really hope TAK down the way can keep us even better coordinated geospatially. So we have 7 bordering mutual aid agencies, 40 square miles, population about 160,000, career department, 35 daily staffed out of 7 fire stations. We're running about 15,000 calls a year, and we're all hazards. Structural, wildland, EMS, paramedic, hazmat. And we got folks on FEMA USAR task force too. Our neighbor to the east, Riverside, hosts California Task Force 6. So, we go to wildfires. We're not primarily a wildland fire agency. We're not, it's just part of a number of incidents we go to. And one of our, first priorities is to keep the houses from burning down. If the vegetation burns, so be it. But our first mission is, life and property. And so where I see TAK really helping us, this is Boyd's OODA loop. If you start at the 12 o'clock position, the observe. TAK has really allowed us to observe way more than we ever have. So you can imagine being at an incident command post and you're the incident commander, you've parked your vehicle and you are probably not going to leave unless that position becomes overrun with fire and you hope you picked a good spot. And so for years, we would coordinate by radio and trying to describe where things are occurring. And you can imagine if you're not on the corner of 6th and Smith Street, how do you describe in a wildland fire where you're at? If you're in a neighborhood, you can use some houses. But if you're out on a ridge line, it can be very tough. So that's been a huge piece for us with TAK, is taking that radio call sign and having that dismounted position. And then getting oriented, at the 3 o'clock position here. How is all this information, how is it relevant to other things that are occurring? And then it's really helped us in the decision-making process and allows us to act much faster. So that OODA loop thing, it's real. You may not realize that you're doing it, but TAK can really help with that. And then the whole time, you've got a clock ticking. The longer it takes you to make decisions, the impact can be pretty great. So, I feel like really strongly about TAK has really improved us there. And so we're going to play back a fire. This is, just last month, we had a small fire. This was not the Palisades or the Eaton fire. You probably didn't hear about it out of state. This was just local news along the 91 freeway and the 71 freeway. We're right on the border of Orange County. So we got a lot of different resources coming in. We're not far from the coast. This is a big canyon. And when we get strong afternoon winds, here you could set your clock by it. So when we get a little fire in here, it's probably not going to get huge, but it's going to get exciting fast and impact homes pretty quickly. So one of the key things we have geospatially in California is 2 planes. This is the FIRES program, Fire Integrated Real-Time Intel System. We love acronyms in the fire service, just like the military does. So we have 2 King Airs. This is hosted by the California Office of Emergency Services. We have one in Northern California in Sacramento, and we have one in Chino, which is 5 miles from Corona. So it's really helpful for us. We get them on station quickly. On this fire, they were actually flying to another fire and spotted this one and did a quick little U-turn and came and mapped our fire first. So we're getting live ISR video, which we do have mapped and played in TAK, and then we're also getting mapping products. So this is pretty huge, and we are the only fire department in California that takes advantage of this stuff in TAK. Everybody else is just playing a regular video off a Slack group message. And not that it's not beneficial, but there's no geospatial properties with it. And I always say, if you're watching video and you have to ask where that is, you're probably doing it wrong. So this is normalized for us. I mentioned this in the keynote. We've had this for about 3 years now as like normal operations. But I'll play a quick, this is on the left, the 2D map in TAK, and we've got AVL and dismounted resources. And on the right, we're playing the live FMV. You can see the sensor point of interest on the left. And every mission, when they start video transmission, we have this. This has become normalized for us, which is pretty impactful. And then these blobs here, these green blobs, this is when they're done mapping. These are the fire perimeters. And in this case, wind-driven in a little canyon here, these are what we would call, there's a very spotty fire. It's not a big uniform fire, we have a bunch of little spot fires. And you can imagine as these engines are up in these neighborhoods, how difficult it can be to understand what's going on. You have a fire burning behind houses, 2-story houses. How far has the fire progressed? And this has really helped us. And this is a good shot of shared AVL. So you see the Orange County Fire Department resources. We have piped their AVL into our TAK system. So once the fire's out, the job's not over. We call this mop up in the wildland arena. Structure firefighters may call it overhaul, same thing. We want to make sure we don't have a rekindle. So we go out and we have to turn over, we got to find the hot stuff because we do not want the fire to spread. Just because you've stopped forward progress, the fire can ignite again. These embers can burn underground, sometimes over winter with snow on them. We don't get snow, but that is possible. So one of the biggest threats is wind. Wind picking up these embers, blowing them across the line and having a rekindle. And we're going to talk about where TAK comes in with that. Don't worry, there's a nexus there. If you're following the Palisades fire that started, I don't think anybody here doesn't understand what the Palisades fire was. We had an extreme wind event in January, which is not uncommon to have Santa Ana winds in January. Over the winter, we had not had rain in like 8 months. Very dry conditions, 90-mile-an-hour winds, and we had an ignition. And, it was devastating. Burned all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and people lost their lives, and we lost a lot of homes. And one of the things is, well, how did this fire start? What started it? The ATF has not come out with their final report yet, but one of the leading, most probable causes is an escape fire. They had a fire on the night of New Year's Eve. Fireworks started. It was not a large fire. They get burned 3 to 4 acres. But it's not out of possibility that 7 days later, with that amount of wind, you could have missed something at ignition. And the reason they think that is we have sentinel imagery from satellites and it puts that first start right where that other fire was. So that is one of the leading causes. I'm not saying that's what caused it, but you can see by this news blurb here, people are starting to ask. This is sort of the conversation going on in the news. So why is that important? Well, if you're on a large wildfire, if you're on a large state or federal wildfire, you can call basically a hotline. You make a map request through the IAA desk. We used to call it the NIROPS desk, but we send out a plane at night to go fly these fires, and they produce this map, these hotspots. But if you have a 3 to 4 acre fire in the city of Los Angeles or the city of Corona or your small jurisdiction, they're not flying this plane. You are on your own. And this is normal for large wildfire. We've had large wildfires in California, and you get a flight. And sometimes you get what's called UTF, unable to fill. You could get a mechanical failure of the aircraft or whatever, and you may not get one of these maps. So what do you do when you have a small fire in your community? Well, we have a UAS program. We now have thermal and EO cameras on all our fire engines now. So we went in the keynote I mentioned. We swapped to to having drones on all our fire engines. And so now we're starting to do thermal mapping. So we can produce our own hotspot map. We're working with a company called Nova. They're a software as a service platform. We fly our drones. We send those images up to their cloud. They produce a product, and we get our own thermal mapping, and then we push it right to ATAK. They actually have a ATAK integration where it could push it right to your ATAK-Server. So now we have targeted mop-up. Now we can go out and actually see on our own, where the hot stuff is. I want you to pay attention to this little spot right here. So the green marker, the green shades are what came from the Virus platform. So those are their polygons. And the red dots are what the thermal imagery caught. And you can notice that there's no green polygon here. I actually drew that one red. So we caught some heat there that the Virus aircraft didn't catch. Now, that could be because after they left, that this fire spotted, and we got another, or so I thought. I learned a lot playing this back for this presentation, things that I didn't realize were happening at the time. But you can see there's someone out there mopping up. We got the phone off the OES 8636. They're out doing the mop up. And we're creating maps. So this is similar to what an IROPS map would look like, and operations maps. And so our folks are out there, they're using ATAK. They know what ATAK's capable of. I didn't train them to do that. They're just using shapes and sending them out to us to say, hey, mop-up's complete. This area is not burned. Kind of reinforcing. The best part is, we put the UAS up again, and this is after they said mop-up was complete, and we're still picking up heat. So these folks are saying that this area is mopped up. We send the UAS up, and we go out and do it again. So because the thermal camera can see what you can't. And I would go to those folks and say, hey, was there actually heat there? Yes, sometimes it's hot rocks, rocks can hold heat, but sometimes it's a stump that, hey, we put some water on this and it's still there. Anybody been, camping before, set a campfire, and at night you put some water on it, you thought you put it out, in the morning, you're like, oh man, this thing's still warm. I thought I put this thing out. Same thing goes for our guys. So by and large, this was a successful operation. This was the first time we did thermal mapping. It was the first fire we had once we put these drones on last fall. And it was a success. The chiefs were thrilled, but I'm never satisfied. How could we do it better every time? And really it was, for initial ATAK, it was that reduce the time to deliver information to the incident commander. And that's where we're experimenting with the SmartCam 3D plugin and the direct video annotation. So I mentioned before that we got that map from the Virus. Well, that took 19 minutes to get that information. And I mentioned the keynote 5 years ago, I probably would have done backflips for that. I was doing backflips for that. It was amazing. But knowing that we could do it a little bit quicker. And so what I discovered is not only quicker, but we actually picked up information that we didn't get on their first flight. So I'm going to do a playback here of our initial incident. So this is the FMV clip. Once they do fly these missions, they do store them, and I can download them and replay them and watch them. So what you're seeing on the left is just an ATAK phone. On the right is a tablet running SmartCam 3D, where we're going to replay the FMV. We're in a data sync mission, and we're paired up in a data sync mission. So I'm going to play this here, and what you're going to see is, the position of the aircraft, the sensor point of interest. On the right is the ATAK and ATAK video player with the SmartCam 3D over the top of it, and it's showing some augmented reality of roads. It is very dependent on all the information being geospatially correct in the FMV, and you can see the lower right, I've got a little exclamation mark saying, hey, you got a little error, but it's pretty close. The roads are off a little bit. So now I'm gonna use the ATAK native drawing tools. Now I've paused this video to draw it, but you can imagine in real time if you had coordination with the sensor operator, just give me a view of the fire. All right, so 18 seconds now, it'll be taking about 20 seconds to map the first area of the fire. Create a polygon, and now I'm doing this with my finger. I'm not using a stylus or anything. And we'll go through this and map every one of these. And if I had data sync turned on for every object I drew on the map, we'd already start seeing blobs on the left, but I wait till the end. Additionally, with the DataSync plugin, if I had any map object on the left, they would show up in augmented reality on the right. So very similar to what you would see with the AVO plugin or using UAS tool. All right, so I've mapped all these out. I'm done. Just close my drawing tools. You can see, those objects as augmented reality in the video, and they're on my 2D map on the left. Now I'm going to use the lasso tool. And I'm just going to take all those objects and send them to my DataSync mission. And there we go. Minute and 45 seconds. So we went from 19 minutes to a minute and 45 seconds. Now, I don't expect an incident commander to do this, to be waiting for the FME. This would be, we have a fusion center that works with the aircrafts. When they get the geospatial information, they're the ones publishing it out and getting it to us. So this is an experiment we're looking at with the fusion center with Cal OES is, could they use this to get us information quicker? Another point of things they do is they do forecast modeling. So when they get a 911 call, they're already modeling the fire where it would go. So they put that in TAK, and this is another part of it is, they're kind of trying to guess where the ignition point is. Well, they'll put it in TAK, and once they start doing the FMV, they can see if their point of ignition for their model is correct or not. And then they can move it on the fly, actually in the video, and correct the model. So that's another thing. So we're looking at, can we do this? And this is going to be an interesting experiment to see if this is a good workflow. I think it is, playing it back here, and I've done this live before. So here's some of the interesting stuff. So here's the image, right? This is what we got off me mapping it. This is the first KML that came off the aircraft, the green blobs, and you can see most of that's lined up there. But what's interesting is, what I found is, look to the right there, at the head of the fire, the further east side of the fire, there's areas that I mapped by my finger that did not come in the first transmission. And I thought, well, maybe it was an oblique angle, I drew it wrong, maybe it's not right. So on this fire, they flew our fire, they went back to mention, they did a U-turn, they went back to their original fire and came back. And that took about an hour and a half for them to come back, and they got our next mapping product. Well, now you can see the finalized mapping product. So what I actually drew on my finger was real and was there initially. You could see that blob is bigger, but you can imagine the fire was growing while they left. And then here's our first thermal map, so after flying. So what's interesting is these little dots here. And this was the area I mentioned before that did not show up in that initial from FIRUS. And look where I drew with my finger. I'm going to say those are the same things. So it was very interesting findings that, hey, we caught heat here on a thermal mapping mission. It lines up exactly where I drew. So my key takeaways for this, time is always our enemy in the OODA loop, so TAK can definitely help you there. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. I've heard this before, but we'd rather take our time and get you an accurate map than get you something really rough. I think we could do it at the same time with technology like SmartCam. I would rather get a rough estimate of where the fire is at, especially moving, than waiting 19 minutes. That could mean a difference for someone's life or their home. If you need anything from me, you can reach me at, this is my LinkedIn. I probably spend too much time there, but at this website and the Gmail address. Thank you.